Happy, beautiful day. It's the Pete Cohen podcast. Welcome to another episode. 4 episodes we're going to be putting out for you on how to thrive in challenging times. I'll see you after the theme tune. The big question is, how are some people in the world today creating the results they want with their health, wealth, and happiness? What exactly are these people doing? This podcast will give you the answers and inspire you to live the life that you want today. Happy, beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me for another Pete Cohen podcast. This is going to be 4 podcasts on how to thrive in challenging times. We weren't going to do this because we thought something else was going to happen. It's funny what you think is going to happen and then what actually happens, because something happened that has changed the world. The world is never going to be the same again. There is no question about that. You probably heard of SARS virus or COVID-19. I'd never heard of it until a few weeks ago. I thought life was difficult enough just by the weather that we'd had recently. We'd had in the UK just really ridiculous winds. Hurricane Derek, hurricanes, I don't know, all the names, Eric. And I thought that was bad enough. And then all of a sudden we're hit with something that has changed, something I've never experienced in my life. And we actually had podcasts coming out on gratitude, and we've put those on hold because, you know what, I think there's definitely a need. There's definitely a need to put out something on how to thrive in difficult times. And, I was thinking about this morning. I shouldn't say this really. I shouldn't really feel like doing this. I did not have the best night's sleep. My wife woke up in the night and was feeling very sick. So we stayed up for a few hours, and I literally must have just had a few hours sleep. But you know what? Why does how I feel have anything to do with what needs to be done? And this is one of the things I want all of us to think about, really. What needs to be done, and what do you need to do? Because over the next 4 weeks, I really want to empower you to look at the situation that we're in, because it's bound to affect you. And if it's not going to affect you, it's going to affect someone you know. And I'm not necessarily talking in terms of your health. Yeah, we will talk about health. And I suppose straight off the bat, one of the things that has been playing on my mind is, if you really look at what's going on here, you realize that the majority of people, and let's just make a mark here, just a statement. I'm not a doctor, right? My background is in psychology, human behavior, but I was a personal trainer for many years. My first degree was in sports science. I've always been interested in performance, not just sports performance, but performance of life, right? What is it that makes someone the best that they can be? And it's not just one area, right? It's definitely mental, physical, emotional, and some might say spiritual, soulful. You got to look at life from a number of different perspectives. And then you got to think, well, why do people get sick? Well, one of the main reasons people get sick is because they have a compromised immune system. And I want to talk about that in another podcast, just so you know what's coming about if you want to thrive in challenging times. If you want to thrive full stop, you've got to learn to have strong immunity, because if you don't, you will be compromised, and then you'll be more prone to sickness, which a lot of people are, whether that's heart disease, whether that's cancer, whether it's high blood pressure. And it appears that people with underlying health conditions are the ones who basically have been dying, and people that have been older. That's not to say there are exceptions to that, but just imagine if people were healthier, and maybe the systems that we live in don't encourage that. Governments don't really encourage that because of the money that they make from keeping us, be careful what you say, Pete, from keeping us unwell. I mean, you don't go to a doctor because you're well and say to the doctor, can I get better, even better? No, they just stop you from being sick. We live in a world where I think just we need to wake up. So if you want to thrive, I definitely want to educate you and arm you with not just different perspectives, but tools, tips, techniques, and strategies that can help you go from where you are to where you want to be. But the thing is, most people don't know where they want to be, and that's where one of the big challenges lies. Most people don't know where they want to go. They don't have big goals, big dreams, big ambitions. Everyone has goals, right? Most people's goal at the moment is just to get through the next couple of weeks and find a way to be able to get food on their table, And I'm not meaning because the supermarkets are empty. I don't think that that's really going to be an issue. I think it's more the people are just going to run out of money because most people live so close to the breadline. That breadline, I think, means not being able to put bread on your table, which isn't really one of the best things to eat. But there you go. I'm just going to sip my coffee. Because I want this to be like a conversation, right? I want you to just, whoever you are, right? Whether I know you or I don't, you're feeling like this guy is talking to me. Why am I talking to you? Because I need to have a conversation with you. I need to get a few things off my chest. I think actually that's what the Pete Cohn podcast is. It's just a way of Pete Cohn getting stuff off his chest. It just seems to help a lot of people. It's not for everyone, obviously, because nothing is for everyone. But I'm asking you, I'm calling you out. I'm like phoning you up. I'm saying, hey, I need you to do something. I need you to come on an epic adventure with me. And if this isn't a reason to do it, then I don't know if I could give you another reason. Maybe because you've been given a few weeks to live. That might be another reason for you to take massive action, to do something. I don't know. But if what is happening isn't a big wake-up call for all of us to look at our lives and go, okay, what's really important? What can I do? Because I'm going to ask you today, and this is what we're going to look at. In order to thrive in challenging times, we have to be, what's the word? We have to be courageous. We really have to be courageous. And I think this is a unique opportunity. I want to thank every single one of our listeners. Last week, or this week actually, the Pete Cohn podcast got into the top 10 podcasts for mental health. Now, is this podcast designed for mental health? Well, I suppose it really depends on how you classify mental health. For me, people feeling good about themselves, people feeling optimistic about who they are and where they're going is what I'm all about. Now, my brother is a psychotherapist, and he's brilliant. He's one of the best listeners I've ever met, and an incredible human being who's had trauma in his life, just like we all have. And one of the conversations we've had is, when does someone need, coaching, and when does someone need therapy, psychotherapy? And he said, well, people need psychotherapy if they are experiencing emotion that keeps coming up and they don't often understand where it's coming from and it doesn't resolve itself. And it's probably related to some trauma or traumatic event that's happened. Therapy can be a really useful tool. And there have been times actually when I've referred people who I've been working with because I just think this person isn't able to move forwards in the way that they want because there's something that's blocking them. Now, when we talk about what's going on right now in the world, there is an emotion. It's almost like for the first time you can feel maybe what everyone is feeling. Because there's never been a time in the world where everyone is aware of one thing. People might say the Second World War. No, there were people in some parts of the world that didn't even know that was happening. I would say there's never been a time where more people, there's an awakening of consciousness. There's an awakening of, what's happening? There's an awakening of so many things. And I'm not here to tell you the right way or the wrong way. I'm saying if you want to thrive in challenging times, understand that the word thrive, it comes from a Scandinavian word meaning to grasp, to hold on to something. And I want to ask you, what do you want to hold on to right now? One of the people who I've coached and she's coached me, Patty Dobrovolsky, one of the most incredible human beings ever, and someone I'm going to be doing some more work with, and I'm going to be sharing her work with all of you about how to be a visual thinker, how to draw your future, how to see the future. Because if you want to thrive right now, we need to rise up above what's going on and look to the future. There used to be this advert for some sort of flour in the UK that you put the flour in and it made the bread rise. And I think it was called cooking. I can't even remember exactly what it was. But basically, in the advert, they'd eat it. And then the people who ate it would just rise up above everyone else and be able to see above them. And it's kind of like what we need to do. We need to take some cooking without actually having it and being able to just rise up and do what is called, this term is a science term, believe it or not, it's called future casting. The science of hope, and we'll talk about hope. There's research and science about hope, and one of the most useful things that anyone can do. And hope is where you believe that your future is better than where you are, is that you can see something in front of you that is better than where you are. Now, how many of you can do that right now? Excuse me while I just take a big gulp of my coffee. Come on, let's be honest here, right? Because most people couldn't do that anyway, regardless of the situation that's happened like this. And now it's happened, probably less people will do it, but a few will. So do you want to be a part of the few? Do you want to observe the masses and do the opposite? I think it was Mark Twain that said, when you're really a part of the majority, that's when you ought to step back and think, okay, what's the majority doing? The majority of people right now are living in fear, huge amounts of fear. And we could all say, well, there's good reason to live in fear. I'm worried I'm going to get this virus, right? Well, if you're going to get this virus, 80% of people will just experience some symptoms and they'll be fine. But I understand that you think you might get it. You think maybe you'll die. Maybe you think you'll give it to somebody else. But that's a fear. So many people are living in fear about that. I think there's even more fear around, well, I can't work. I can't earn any money. I'm self-employed. All my work, of my speaking work, most of my coaching work with the executives, well, it's just gone. It's just gone. I don't know whether that will happen again, but actually, I don't think there's ever been a more important time for executives and for people to start thinking ahead. It's just, they can't. It's like everything has to go on hold. For me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity to redefine things. This is a real opportunity to think ahead, to not be consumed by fear, but rather to be fueled by fear. Now, I know these are just words, but ultimately, what does it take for people to do great things? You know, I was watching a TED Talk recently, and I watched it yesterday. It blew me away. It was about this girl from North Korea who grew up thinking that North Korea was the best thing since sliced bread. And she used to sing this song at school all about how great her country was. But then when she was 7, she saw her first public execution. And you can imagine that this was in the 90s. That had a big impact on her. And then she saw this massive famine, which killed over 1 million people. Over 1 million people. How many people are going to die of this virus? Every day, 26,000 people die of starvation. Why do we not really hear about that? Well, because of the systems. It's not reported to us every single day, but it's all relative. I'm not saying that where you are isn't bad or difficult, but it's ultimately still, what can we do about it? What can we do? We can thrive by seeing the importance of us being courageous. We can be consumed by fear, which many people are. Anyway, back to the story of this girl. She saw people dying. People got her out of the country, and it almost became a spy. Went to China and had to act like a Chinese girl. And I think when she was 14, someone told the police that she wasn't Chinese. She was arrested. She was extremely scared, as you can imagine, because she was being interrogated. And she pulled it off. They thought, no, the girl's Chinese. And she carried on living her life. Obviously learnt Chinese and, amazing, what people are capable of. And then she went to go and live in South Korea and then had massive issues about her identity. Am I South Korean? Am I North Korean? And then she got arrested because money that she was sending her family in North Korea got intercepted. She was released, but her family in North Korea were basically taken to this place in the country, like a type of prison. And then this girl courageously went back to North Korea and took them from where they were, traveled 2,000 miles to Laos, where she was basically had to pay for her parents and family to go over the border, and then basically had no money, and then her parents were arrested, and then she didn't have any money left, and at her worst moment, a stranger basically saw her crying and said, "How can I help you?" And she told the stranger what had happened, and the stranger went to the ATM, got some money, paid for the people to be released and other people to be released. And the girl said, thank you so much. Thank you, for being there for me in my hour of need. And he said, no, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for North Korea, right? Or North Koreans. And there are stories like that every single day. But most of us, when we hear stories like that, we might feel inspired by them, but not necessarily inspired to act. And that's really the crux of what I want to share with you today. What's it going to take for all of us to be courageous, for all of us to have hope. You see, hope is where the three key elements of hope. Let me just have a sip here. It's very unprofessional, but this is what I'd be saying if I was sitting off the table with you, having a chat with you. But obviously I would be listening to you as well. But maybe you are listening, and I appreciate the fact that you're giving me your time. The three key elements of hope are goals, agency, and pathways. What does that mean? Well, goals. We are teleological. If you don't have goals, right now there are people who can't leave their house all over the world, who some of them are just sitting still and not doing anything, and some of them are being hyperactive in terms of hyperproductive, whether that's, this is what happy people do. They'll have projects, they'll paint the fence, they'll find things that need to be done, and they'll just keep doing things, because human beings, that's what we do. That's who we are. That's how we're wired up. We are wired up to achieve. We're wired up to complete things, to have the feeling of things. And if you're not doing that, there's a part of you that's dying. That's what happy people do. But I'm not saying that these people are better, but people who have quests, and you can be both. A quest is a cause, something, whether it's looking after the sick, whether it's looking after the vulnerable, whether it's coaching people like you. This is what my quest is, to take people like you who are listening to this and be a positive influence in your life. That is what I'm here to do. I've been doing it for years. I've only just got started with it, and I'm asking you, let's go. Let's have a cause. Your cause is your own. It's up to you. But if your cause is about helping others, that's when we see a side of human beings that is truly beautiful, truly amazing. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, the most important and pressing question that we should be asking is, what can we do for others? So here's my question to you. What can I do for you? I dare you to let me know. This is not a joke. This is real. It's like your country needs you. The private Facebook group that we have, Pete Cohen Coaching, just come and join. Come and join and be a part of a group of people. It's free. And let's all get fired up. We can't be. This is it, guys. This is the key thing. If we want to look at what we want to leave behind, I think in order to move forwards, it's a good idea. Okay, what do I want to leave behind? What do I want to let go of? Let's let go of being worried about what people think about us. Because if you choose to rise up and go on some sort of quest moving forwards, people are going to say you're stupid, you're mad. Just stay where you are. Don't stay where you are. I was talking to one of my clients yesterday. We're doing a coaching call on Zoom. I bet Zoom's income has gone through the roof. I wonder if they predicted that. I wonder if they future casted and saw how many people would be using Zoom, because wow, what a great tool. And it works so well. Can we future cast? Can we see our future? I was talking to him yesterday, and we had a fantastic conversation about how the old ways that people would cling on to, after this, forget about it. You're not going to be able to hide anymore. You're going to have to show up, and you're going to have to adapt. Adapt to what? Adapt to a different world. And it's never going to be more important for the likes of you and I to have hope. What's hope? You've got goals. Goals around something to do maybe with your health, your energy, which we'll talk about in another one of these podcasts, your relationships, your relationship with your family, and your work and your service. Many people are going to definitely have to look at different ways to have income. And that's one of the things I'm really passionate about. I'm very happy that I've built something over the years that has given me what some people would call passive income. My shares, my investments, wow, they've just gone so far down. But I kind of future casted, because I knew years ago that there's few things that people are really interested in, and one of them is health, and the other is coffee. So I've been in a business. You know what happens in times of economic decline? Coffee consumption goes up and cigarette consumption goes up. But you know what? I don't want to sell cigarettes. I really don't, because I'm not too sure about how good cigarettes are. We need goals. Goals that fire us up. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you because we've got an opportunity to stop, look back and think, what's really important? Where do I want to go? From this moment onwards, as difficult as it's going to be, it's going to be difficult. For some people, they're not going to have any work. They're not going to have any money. They're going to have to ask for help, which is a big thing. And that's why I'm asking you, how can I help you? I'm asking you, how can I help you? What do you need? Because I'll help you. If I can, I'll help you. We need goals. We need agency. Now, what's agency? Agency is belief. You believe in yourself and you believe that there's something in front of you. How do you do that's better than where you are? Right? It's a choice, right? Belief. You believe that something in front of you is better than where you are. And then there's pathways. Pathways is it's not just one way. So many people in the world today is like, there's just one way. That's how I was brought up. You know, there's a right way and a wrong way. Excuse me? Whose right way is that? It's your way. Is that my way? Your right is actually my left. How many ways are there to achieve something? And how many paths are you prepared to go down to have to adapt and change? You know, I mean, obviously a lot of us get distracted, which we'll look at again on another podcast, that you might start something with great intentions, but you didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like doing this podcast, but now I really feel like doing it because I'm in the flow. And I just know that I'm only looking for one of you that will come to me and say, Pete, you know what, that podcast you said about hope, that was, and thriving and being courageous, that got me, Pete. That really got me. Thank you. And this is what I'm doing. What do you think about it, Pete? We can be passive and we can be active. And there will become a time soon where you're going to have to make some moves. I don't know what those moves are going to be, but this is what I want to talk about. Let me just take a sip of this before it goes cold. There's nothing worse than cold coffee, right? And you might know this, but every single day on Monday to Friday, I started broadcasting again on Facebook. And I did that for 3 years for free, just for anyone. And you should come and check that out, you know, because there's some great stuff there that can help you. We have to be careful about what we're feeding our brains, because we have this wonderful brain that it can do amazing things. It can be consumed by fear, or it can be consumed by courage. And courage basically is your ability to, let me put it to you like this. It's fuel. Courage is a virtue. And again, I want to empower you by talking more about, most people don't even know what virtues are. But when you look at the ancient philosophy, you look at religions all around the world, no matter what you think about religions, there's some really positive things about collaborations of groups of people that live a virtuous life. A virtuous life is primarily about being courageous. It's about wisdom. You know, what does wisdom tell us? Wisdom of the ages. It tells us, well, things like this happen and we move on, and hopefully we'll move on to a better place. But we have a part, I believe we have a part to play on that. Basically, being courageous is a willingness to act. And it's actually associated with heart in its root origin, the meaning of the word. It's to have the heart. It's like what your heart pumps blood to your body. Courage pumps the energy to your organs and to your brain that gets you to act. So what I want to share with you is there's two basic types of motivation, right? So there's the inhibition system and there's the activation system. And these are in both of us. And you might have heard of this before as the fight or flight response or the freeze response. There's actually 3 responses that we can have, right? So this has happened, and a lot of people are frightened for so many reasons, consumed by fear. And other people will fight it. They'll go after something. They'll just take different type of action, and there'll be people that just do nothing. I think that's often the most dangerous thing. Well, they can all be dangerous if not managed effectively, if there's not something in front of you that inspires you to act and move forwards. But the behavioral inhibition system is in you. And we live in a world that basically the media, the world of consumerism is often trying to activate that system in you to get you to be frightened. Because when we're frightened, we often consume what we don't need. How many people do you think are so consumed by fear that manifests in worry and doubt that they then end up suffering from depression or some sort of really bad anxiety that they then get given medication, which then makes someone money? It's part of the system because they never were at school, which is another system where they don't sit down and talk to you about, hey, this is what anxiety is. This is how it happens in the body. This is how to look at it from a different perspective. This is how to deal with it. Because basically anxiety, fear, worry, doubt is a natural state that we can all produce because it was there to save our lives. Because when the lion is chasing the zebra, and once upon a time we may be chased by lions. In fact, people still are probably still chased by lions from time to time. But you know what? That was a good point to be frightened, because it was the fuel that could make you run away fast. But once you knew you were safe, you wouldn't carry on being frightened. And most people are just living in a state of perpetual fear every single day of their life. In some way, shape or form. I'm not good enough. The world is against me. People are thinking that way. I'm not good enough. That's why people use social media so much, because they're looking for, what are they looking for? And by the way, I heard something fantastic yesterday. He said, let's not call it social media. My good friend in Yancey in Texas, let's call it social service. Let's use social media. My Instagram, I've been putting speeded up exercise sessions I've been doing, and they've been getting so many hits. I mean, it's fun, but I'm just trying to show, look what can be done. I'm nearly 50 years old. I want to inspire people to move, to have a stronger immune system, because when we move, our body, our muscles secrete molecules that are associated with hope. That's why after people exercise, they just feel so much better. What's the point of all of this? Look, you've got this ability, the behavior inhibition system, that easily gets activated. Just look at the news. There's so much information that is confusing. We can't take it in, so we don't know what to believe. There's people sending me messages left, right, and center, that we then create this huge state of uncertainty. But then we have this other system within us, which basically, it's the behavioral activation system, which is almost the opposite. It gets us to act. It accesses the pleasure centers of our brain. And that's why often we want to reach for something that gives us some form of immediate pleasure. In fact, when we feel fear, we're often driven to move away from it, to activate the different system. That's why we eat sugar, smoke, all of these things that we do, watch something that gives us a bit of light entertainment, as opposed to really lighting up that system by being driven by something that we have to do, a cause, a mission, something that gets you up every single day. And what we need to do, and again, I'll talk about this more as we move forwards. If you think about it like an equation, it's your courage quota, right? So it's your willingness to act over fear, your willingness to act over fear. So think of it like between 0 and 10 for your willingness to act, and 0 to 10 with fear. So let's say right now, my willingness to act right at this moment is 10, and I've driven down my fear, right? So I've driven down my fear to 1. So I've got a quotation of 10. If I'm not willing to act, I think I can't do anything, and that's 0, and I'm extremely frightened, and that's a 10. Well, that's like minus 10. If you think about it as a between 10 and 0 and minus 10. So minus 10 is being absolutely consumed by fear. Plus 10 is a willingness to act. Think about where you are on this. How can we drive up the willingness to act? What do we need to do within you? And maybe you need some help with this. You know, what I've been doing is getting people on calls to have let's have a hero chat. Let's have a chat about how you can be heroic, because the hero is the protector, right? The hero is someone who's going, and we can all be heroic. It's just often we need a disaster, a trauma, a diagnosis before we see something inside of people. And if you want to have a conversation with me, just reach out. Go to coaching.petecohen.com, coaching.petecohen.com, and watch the video. And on the back of that, you can make a call. We can talk, believe it or not. But if you're going to be consumed by fear that stops you from doing that, well, I won't do that. That's not real. What he's going to do, so he's going to sell me something. I'm going to sell you something. I'm going to sell you a better future. I'm going to talk to you about it, because you have that ability in you. And it's not your country needs you. Your world needs you. Your world needs you right now. What if you were chosen to be born in this time, in this era? This was your time, your moment. Well, whether you look at it like that, this is where we are. What's your biggest takeaway from what I've shared with you? How do we cultivate courage? Well, we can look at that. But one of them is future casting. And one of the things that we teach people how to do is to prime. How to see, how to foresee. I've always been fascinated with this because I didn't do it for so long, but I was telling other people to do it because maybe like you, I was consumed in fear. I'm not good enough for so many years in my life. But then I had to wake up, and my wife was given 18 months to live, to think, you know what people think about me really isn't that important. I've got a necessity to act. And going through that process and then meeting Patty, who I mentioned earlier on, really taught me and her, let's not be consumed by the present. Let's be driven by the future and recognize what can we do in the present to create the future that we want. Look, a great life doesn't just happen. It happens by design. And we have the opportunity to design something better than where we are right here, right now. I really appreciate you taking the time, half an hour of your time, to listen to this coach from the United Kingdom talking to you. But we need a united world. And if you're just thinking I'm on my own here, look, the reason why these films like The Avengers have become so popular over the last few years is because there's superheroes that have come together. You know, it used to be just Superman on his own or Spider-Man on his own. Now they're all coming together with the Incredible Hulk, the Avengers, the Marvels. They're all coming together. How can I help you? What can I do for you? Let's all come together. It sounds like a cliche, but that's what the world needs, guys. I really appreciate you showing up. What was your number one takeaway? Share it. If you're watching this on, listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please like it. Make a comment. It really, really makes a difference. Let's get these words out there to the world. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, really want to thank you for being here today. You guys rock the world, and I'm sending you much love. I'll see you for episode 2 of the series of 4 to How to Thrive in Challenging Times. Much love.